Hello everyone. Today we have another challenge. We've got I think 2 days left of Nodevember. So today the prompt was branching, so naturally I'm going to try to make a branching pattern. And for that I'm just going to be using working on a plane, because this is just going to be a 2D pattern. But this could be useful for if I want to generate something like this later on. I'm going to be kind of experimenting with a different concept of, if you create this branching pattern, you kind of have to use group nodes to repeat tasks. So, you map something out and then you have something built on top of it. A recursion. So, yeah, right here, I'm just going to go into render view, and let's turn on my screencast keys right here. So you can see what I'm typing in. I guess my head's right there, so let's try to flip that over. So I'll keep my reference over here, and then, sorry, just kind of working this around. So let's put this on the right side of the viewport, so maybe you can see that a little bit better. As always, we start with this texture coordinate node. I'm going to use UV space, so this is 0, 0, and this is 1, 1 on the coordinates. And that's shown in color. So the red represents the x-axis. As it gets higher, it turns more red, and as it gets more green, it goes more on the y-axis, and we can see that also right here and here on that axis. So if I, what I want to do is I want to be able to make a single branch, that would be amazing, right? So if I just separate that to get the x-axis, that gives us a gradient going across, right? We want that to go upward, right? So if I can shift that over, if I look at this add node, we see what this does. See, it's just shifting it. And then to reflect it to the other side, as always, I use absolute. And yeah, there we have it reflected. And so the trick is going to be, having this and then repeating that on the upcoming branches. So to do that, we can sort of experiment with groups. So we have this y coordinate going across. We can combine that with this right here, or using the absolute. So yeah, now we have this reflected coordinate system, and so this could be one of our outputs, the vector position, and then we have the absolute position right here. And if we so if we have these two outputs, so let's make this into a group node. Have the vector input on the outside right there. Control G makes it a group input. And if I go into edit mode, I can add more inputs. So we have this vector output, and we're also going to add a value input right there. We can switch the order if we'd like. I'd like. So I'm just going to click on that, switch that. Can name this branch gradient, grad for short. And so we have this. And from these UV coordinates, we can try adding another one. So to this node group, let's see what happens if I plug one into here. I mean, it's just this gradient is now reflected over this one. So what I can do is use a rotation. So now these branches are going inwards. It's a little bit offset, so let's just adjust the center. And we have the gradient from that center there that we can also work with. And in the context of all of these systems, we can keep doing that recursively. we don't want any rotation on this first one, but we want it on this node group right here, because we're going to be repeating that. But if I add this rotate in there, it's going to affect the first one. So I think I'll actually make a separate group, or we can ungroup this one, Control Alt G to separate that, and this remains a group. Yeah, if we regroup that, that is now a separate node group from what this is. Yeah, and so if I plug this into here, I'll just copy that. Let's see if we can paste it right into this area right here. This will have the same effect, but now we can hopefully repeat this. Okay, so this is the output. This is what we're looking at right here. It's going to the viewer node, which I can do with shift right click, as you've seen me on previous stuff. And yeah, when I make adjustments to this, we're getting some rotations in a certain place. And yeah, so we can see this, and we can see the gradient from this. Yeah, and let's make this output just consistent. So I guess we always want that to be on the top. I won't bother with the naming convention right there. Yeah, so if we another useful thing to have would be to mask out where this starts. So let's see if we can get that from this. So this is determined by the rotation of this, the center of this, negative 0.5, and let's see what it's at. 0, it's way down there. We just brought this up, we get that. So let's just control with that. That's more predictable. So I think 2. Yeah, and that relates to this rotation here. If we make this a nice, we've made it 45-degree angle. What does that give us? Yeah, so it's going straight out like that. And yeah. Yep. So if I take the z gradient from this, or sorry, the y gradient, let's see. Yeah, so let's move this, and if we make this really slight, I'm hoping that we'll get some kind of simple repetition. So we're just shifting this up. Yeah, let's try it at 22.5. That's half of 45 degrees, which is a perfect diagonal. Yeah, so if I look at this and add yet another group node in this, and then plug the vector in, we'll get some more branching. This time, it's going to be on this node group. See if we're getting what we want. Yeah, so we're getting and the rotation is still happening around this center point, and that will be the same for all of these. So if we see this rotation here, so this gradient, let's try to make sense of this. Is this going up, or just try 90 to see, what that would look like. If I used scale to see what all this is doing. And so every time we want it to be shifted up along the new vector. So I think we could try adding just an add node here. Let's make the rotation along that center and just bring this up on the y-axis. Yeah, so we're getting this, that's a branch, and there's a branch, and then there's the root. There. Yeah, so we're starting to get something. And we could center this by subtracting by 0.5 in the beginning. And yeah, adjusting this. But we also add 0.5 right here. So maybe this is redundant. So I'm going to, well, negative 0.5 in order to center it. So we don't need that anymore. And in the case of this, yeah, that's just adjusting that. That 0.5 being in the node was important because it allowed it to be centered. So yeah, so let's make this negative 0.5. And this, so that updates for both of these. And it was important for this. You could also subtract 0.5 instead of adding negative 0.5, same thing, right? So, so we don't need to use this right here. Yeah, minus 0.5. Well, close enough, right? And if we can maybe control how much this branch repeats. So we can cut off the y-axis. Right here's the gradient of this going straight up. If I use a mix node, put that to the value, and use the y gradient. So if we look at the y gradient, what it's doing, it's actually starting here. So we can just say, if we plug that into the factor, set it to a sine, you can see the outcome of this. So we only want it to show up on this side, so we can turn this to white. Yeah. And yes, so let's see why is this darker? So we look at this, this is a pretty bright value. And then, in the case of this, we might be able to derive the gradient of y from this in order to mask it out in the end. So let's do this after the rotation, so the length is according to this branch that's angled outwards. So if we use this y gradient, we can see it's very faint, but it exists and it's going out in this direction. Use the color ramp, we can see it's there, but it's not giving us the range that we want. So let's try multiplying it. This will adjust the range. So I think if we set it out to something like that, and then let's change this to signed, and remember that's S-I-G-A-N, not like sign with geometry like it is here in trigonometry. Okay, this means positive or negative. Yeah, and so if I plug that absolute into there, put this in the mix factor, and turn this all the way up, let's see the result of this. And we can see it's affecting both of these. We could combine these as well with the multiply node. So it looks like they're being offset at the same distance right now. And that's because every time we're shifting this vector up, okay, and they are being offset, but not as much as we want them to be. So we can adjust this and then maybe bring up the scale to see. Yeah. And then let's also combine the original trunk. Let's use the value instead of the vector. Yeah, and if we turn this up, that'll make sure that it stays dark. Turn this to clamp. Hopefully the trunk will show up. If you look at this, we have something here, but it isn't showing. Go here. Okay, so it's there, but it's very faint. Let's try multiplying that. That should adjust the thickness of this. It has to stay positive. Just try adding. A bit late, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty late. Hope you're doing well, DSO. Yeah, maybe you should get a good rest, or because I think it's kind of late for you, right? Yeah, do what you want, but put your health first. Hey Blaze, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so we have these branches here. And that's just repositioning it. Let's put that back to where it was. So if we look at this, here is, well, the scale is really large. So if I divide this, that'll make it always larger. I appreciate that. That's really thoughtful of you to do so. Yeah. So I'm glad sounds good. Yeah, and then, so I'll do a similar thing with these parts. So if I sample this. Yeah, so we're getting these weird patterns up here. Yeah, so what's that all about, huh? What if we put, instead of just white, if we made that a value, maybe, and then made it more than that, then it would have to be white. Just clamp the results. Yeah, so I don't know why that's gray. That's okay. So if I use this node and adjust this node, if I adjust the distance here, bring it down, this one should also be of equal distance. So if I bring that out, we have it like that. Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of a way of getting a kaleidoscope effect. See, if I said try to do sculpting day, it was really fun. You can do it, and you can add things. I'm pleased with it. Oh, that's so great to hear. Glad it was really helpful. You made tutorials? Yeah, if you made like video tutorials, that'd be really cool to see. Is it on your channel or? Oh, from tutorials. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a little different. Yeah, nothing wrong with making tutorials while you're still learning, because you always will be learning. Yeah, and there's something to enjoy about, seeing somebody experience something for the first time. That's why reaction videos are so popular, I think, right? Yeah, so let's adjust it with that in mind. What if we did, if we put like a multiplier at the beginning, and this is positions recursive, I can put this in there. You did? Oh man, I will be starting Discord soon, and I hope to see what you guys are making when that finally happens. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, how'd it go, Blaze? Yeah, so we're getting some weird effects here. So this branching is darkening there, and then turn that all the way up. Let's try turning off clamping. Nope. It's gonna, if try to find like a pen tablet not like a Wacom, but I mean not a. I mean these ones are pricey. This one would be perfect, but I'm not sponsored or anything. But there's also like off-brand. Yeah, just search graphics tablets. You could find one for even cheaper that would be just as good. But that's really like helpful for sculpting because it's more like drawing, and it's pressure sensitive, so you can control the size and strength of your brush dynamically, and that's really good for painting as well. Yeah, so let me know if you guys, would think of that. It's a little, it takes maybe a little bit getting used to, but it's really just like using a pencil. And it's different from a mouse because you're not dragging it. You can put it anywhere, so it's really fast. Awesome. Yeah, once I start doing more characters, I think that'll be really cool to share. What if I just brought these all back to, or maybe I'd just divide these. Okay, so this is interesting, but not sure what's going on here. So let's see. Well, now we have something. Maybe I can try a different experiment. I'm just gonna start fresh with these UV coordinates. If I use radial, and that's coming from over there, so let's center that with this math node, 5, and let's shift it over. Oh, nope. Let's, if I use add here, so now that's adjusting the range. So this is 0.5, 0.25, okay, cool. And if this is 1, and then 1 kind of starts disappearing. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think a lot of people sculpt with mice, but not professionally. Yeah, it's too bad there's not really, this might not be an opportunity to try it out, but it really makes a difference, and you will get used to it. The pressure sensitivity makes a huge difference. Like, if I, so here's a cube, right? I need to change in the preferences again. So, a key map tab for Pi menu, just personal preference. So if I change the sculpt, and then I just did a quad remesh on this. Just a sec. Just to show you the difference in speed. This is with a mouse. Like, yeah, I can do this and I can control this, and I could like increase the strength up here and get something, and I could vary the size by zooming in like that. Those are the things I do to speed it up if I don't have pressure sensitivity. But let's say I have so I have this tablet right here, and so here it is without radius or strength, pressure sensitivity. And sorry, that looks better than the mouse for some reason because I subdivided, but yeah, so same thing. But if I add radius, it gives me a dynamic radius, so I can go from small to really big, So you could really quickly get some more effects. Or if you want to do something more nuanced, like if you have skin folds, it's going to be a lot easier because so this sharp brush goes inwards. Sorry, let's start with the flat surface here. So here's a thick valley, and then if I want that to fade off, just go a little bit lighter. You know, and if I were to do that with the mouse, I could do that, and then, but I'm not going to get those nuances. And that's just with controlling the strength. So that I could do like this, and then if I did a light, with the same setting, not changing anything, this versus this. Same amount of strokes, just different pressure, you know, so makes a difference. You know, now I'm adjusting the radius. So here's big pressure, here's a little pressure immediately. You know, and you don't, I've never run out of batteries with these too. So, you know, look for that when you get it, but old man. And yeah, I mean, I think it'll be important to go over the techniques. I think there's a lot of useful stuff I could say about that. But I mean, I did the Gandalf. That was kind of an old guy, right? Yeah, I think I might do an old woman. I'm gonna try to change it up, have some things that are challenging for me, and sort of talk through that. And I think it will translate to people on all levels if I do something like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe I could experiment with doing just like a live thing, or maybe cutting it up instead of doing one time lapse. That would render a lot faster anyway, because time lapse is, at least when I'm editing with Blender, that's what I use for video editing. It took me like 4 hours to render a 20-minute time lapse or something, because the footage was like 4 hours. Yeah. So we're adjusting the range here. If I shift this, actually, if I subtract by 0.5, let's see if I can get a reflection here. Yes, we get this, and maybe I could, if I put a vector rotate over here, I can, have that go straight up. So minus 90, yep. And it is kind of like just showing off sometimes when you do a time lapse, but also showing just what's possible. I think that's the most positive thing to get out of it when you're watching a time lapse. But yeah, it's hard to learn just from that. So yeah, I'll try to break down like steps and make it relatable to beginners, all levels. So yeah, have a good night to you. So thanks for staying on. But yeah, get some good sleep. Yeah. So I'm using this to bring these together, so I have these UV coordinates maybe to go off of for the next one. So let's see what happens if I put radial into this texture that's already gradient. Interesting. Yeah, so when I have nothing, just yeah, what if this was just a vector rotation node? Let's see. Like, where is 0, 0 even at this point? I'd like this to look clean, so I'm just gonna reattempt what I was doing before. Just see if it doesn't end up this messy. So I'm not exactly sure why it was. So if I use this add node and then minus 0.5 and then separate the x-axis and then reflect it and then yeah, and then we're gonna cut off the top. So let's use this. Change it to try multiply. Okay. So for some reason, this was, yeah, I guess I could try just, instead of, the thing that was messing it up, I think, was the sign in here. Let's see. So let's try multiplying that. And this will give us the opposite what we want. So we want it cutting off the top. Or screen. Turn down. So yeah, in this instance, it's these branches. And we're trying to erase it so that it lines up with the other branches. Okay, so okay, so this is working. Yeah, maybe we could, let's just try seeing what would happen if I adjust the scale here. Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of nice. I guess we always need to use that divide. Let's just divide this in here. And then for this value, we can, for the vector, let's try scaling it, which actually has a similar effect. So it should just get bigger with every branch. Turn this out, we'll, you know, away. See that these eventually thin out, but they get exponentially bigger. I think, yeah, maybe we want that to be the opposite, you know. Maybe as close to 1 as possible, and then scaling it in. Oh, that's tough. Wow. so if we bring this out, this node group, I think this needs to be divided. Because remember, this node isn't doing what the rest are. Change this to like 1. Okay, we already did that. If we used another one, so yeah, let's just copy these. Vector goes into this vector, and yeah, so it's a little different this time. I guess we could make these kind of wavy too, so let's try distorting the vector a bit. So as we always do, just use some linear light and use noise texture. So there's something different's happening this time. Can't quite place what. So this spreads them out, because that brings them together. Interesting. This distortion isn't doing much here. So let's try, what if we just tried putting it in at the end? Let's try it at the beginning of this. So it's taking a while to compile because of all these different instances. So that adds to the computation time. You have all those. Because it has to run through all of these groups to run it. Yeah, so not the most efficient way to work unless you have to work with recursion, the iterating or repeating these tasks over again until you get the result that you want. Okay, so let's try adding it here. Still taking some time to render here. Interesting. So we can thin that out. Okay, let's try to, we're just gonna try again. So let's use this screen. So I'm gonna make this exist up till 0.5. Then it's gonna fade off. And yeah, we could put one on this part as well. The x axis. Yeah. So if we bring it into something like that. If we combine this, we'll get the coordinates, but then we can also use this for the output. So, yeah, this is the final result. Well, we could, let's use color burn. That will affect the size of this. So now we can adjust the size, and if we use color dodge, it'll affect the fall off, the smoothness of it. So if we bring this all the way to white and this all the way to black, we have control over the full range of this gradient that we made right here. And I guess we can make it all the way like that, so if that gives me the profile that I want, yeah, that's pretty good. So, yeah, so we have that, and let's just we can make this all a group node, and let's make the rotation separate for each of these. So we have this, and let's plug this vector in here so we can reuse that. And yeah, so let's plug this over here, put the vector into it, and then vector rotate. Okay, let's experiment with using the vector rotation in the node. So if I put it in the beginning, and we also shift it and scale it. So the interesting thing about this is, first we have the position, then we can change the size, and rotation is kind of independent. The order doesn't matter as much for rotation, I think, but this, the size affects the distance, and that would affect. So it's important that add comes before that, because then that will determine where it scales from. So if I use this, okay, we're getting it down there. Interesting. So let's shift this down up. Yeah, for some reason that's up right now, and we want these to be building on top of each other. So right now they're both starting at that position. Hopefully we're starting at the center right here. So 0, 0, I think because it's in the center and it's at the ground, that's what this is telling us, that position. So, and so it's rotating at 0, 0, so it's also rotating from that point. And we want this one, the next group node, we want to be shifted up from that. So maybe we could try just making this 0, and then in the group node, if we did it in here, and then if we rotate it, should be, oh yeah, we need to sample this one to see what's happening. So we have this, we have the scale, but there's two on top of each other right now. We just haven't really made sense of. Okay, so we have two. They're being so we have these two values being combined with multiply to make the darkness be combined. And yeah, if we make this negative 0.5. But now this, every time this gets shifted over, so that's why we want to do it before. And then in the node, bring it back to 0. And change the scale. So smaller, the more this extreme this gets, the larger each jump is going to be. And it's also affecting the overall size. Yeah, so we can rotate that. Let's look at this gradient that we're outputting. Yeah, so let's look at the first node group. Yeah, so it's rotating out from this, and this is reflected. No, this isn't reflected because we never did the absolute value thing. So now it's being reflected. Yeah, so that's what we were missing in getting those branches. Yeah, so we're just playing with this. Oh, now it's below it. Okay. So this is the original coordinate. These are the ones that came after. Yes. Oh, so it has. Yeah, that makes sense. -0.5, and yeah. So I guess to see all of it, I'm gonna add the scale value here. This will just give us a picture of the whole thing. So this is more different, and this is going to be more the same. Yeah. So let's make it something like 0.3. So I think that makes it a third of what it was the last time. Let's try. Well, let's look at this. So like, let's say it's half of it each time. Okay, and if we scale this down so we can see what's happening. Now we can just repeat this node a bunch. We're just going to copy these, so these vectors keep going into here. And yeah, this is, doesn't matter which one of these goes in. You know, it's the same if I put this under instead with multiply. Yeah. So it looks like it's getting 5 times bigger every time. Or, yeah, twice as big every time. So let's try 2, go in the other direction. Maybe we could try divide. Let's try 0.7. Yeah, sorry, just playing with values a lot. It's kind of helpful. Okay. Yeah, and then in the end we can just kind of fix this rotation here. Yeah, we can keep iterating. So let's just copy this 2 more times. Shift-R to repeat a command. That works with modeling and everything else as well. It's a quick way to make an array. Yeah, so if I plug this in, put multiply in there, and vector in there, and yeah, so we just add more and more, and yeah, it looks like it's starting to flatten out at the end, which makes sense. Well, I think it'll probably eventually turn into itself. Let's see how far this takes us. Looking good, yeah. I know. Wasn't looking so good earlier, and now we made it in, right? So yeah, all we're doing is creating that texture where it reflects. We made this, and then the rotation is iterating every time. It's repeating that. So now that's the edge. That's what that's gonna look like. And you can see, we can actually see that adding, building in complexity. And look, when I connect this one, the loading time is going to be noticeably slower. Oh, not really. Wow. Okay, and check this out. So this rotate is happening for all these nodes. So if I adjust this, oh yeah, it's like a fan. Whoa, wow, that is amazing. It's like it's like a literal flex. Like turns into an octopus. if we want, we could actually assign a value to each of these. So right here we made it, they're all 26. Yeah, and the only reason it would make sense to do this is if I want it to relate to this rotation right here. So right now this makes sense because -26, it's countering that rotation so that this is the same. Yeah, may as well keep it separate. They don't need to drive each other. But I can keyframe this. Yeah, this is such a cool effect. I wasn't like expecting it to work that well. But yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, we could add. Let's see if adding that noise distortion will work better now. Now that I've like put together a proper thing. So this right here. And let's make it actually based off these coordinates. So this right now it's generated coordinates. There's nothing to do with this. And now it's adding distortion on every level. But yeah, let's have it be scaled down and rotated. Like, why not? So notice like the scale of the noise is bigger here than it is down there. That's really awesome to have. Wow, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, nodes are fun. Maybe there's something we could do to make it stay thick as it gets up. Like, I don't know. Don't know about that one. Maybe if we could try like multiplying the x-axis. Oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah, so it's just thinning out the branches and. Is that? Yeah. Oh, wow. Want to play more with group nodes now, right? It's kind of like it's like not. It's kind of like leaves, even though they're not really in the right place. And then it's like, oh, winter. All the leaves are fallen. And we have like a mirror image on these branches. We might be able to make that staggered. I'm going to, this noise texture actually, like, this is cool. Yeah, keep it something modest like that. Let's save this again, because who knows if this is going to crash it. Maybe it's not doing much, I don't know. But does it say anything helpful in seeing statistics about this? Planes, words, tries. Oh yeah, system memory. Yeah, that's not much, but I don't know if that has much to do with this. So, yeah, that's cool. I guess we could adjust the whole y coordinate with a coordinate texture. If we just use the coordinate from this, which is always a new thing, or if you use white noise and then 1D, I think this just gives us a different color value for each of these. So W is the seed. It's going to be different. value every time. But why is it? It's actually giving us. I'm seeing. You're probably not seeing it with your resolution, but I'm seeing like streaks of pink and blue and yellow. So I think there's also a seamless Voronoi that's 1D. And yeah, so let's try adding it to y, the y coordinate. So it's gonna shift this up randomly. This is just an experiment. I think, you know, I can recover from this. So let's see. I'm gonna sample the very end of this. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I think it is giving it the effect that we're expecting. But if I use a multiplier, just sort of decrease the, so here it's normal, and then, so there's kind of a, so it's separating them at a random distance. So we have that range, and then what if I just shift it back down, but not, instead of multiplying, I'm shifting it, so not stretching it, shifting. And yeah, by using the add node. Yeah, so it's interesting how you get like this hexagonal pattern at the end. Let's see. Interesting. Have you learned much about like regularly occurring fractals in real life, like ferns? It's the same shape on the leaves, and the individual sections of the leaves have that repeated pattern, and just keeps going. Or like that, there's like a type of broccoli that I couldn't believe it when I saw it, because I actually saw it in person before I heard about it, which I think most people I know it's the opposite, but or I guess it's cauliflower. Yeah, but yeah, it's like, see, it's the spiky shape, and then the spiky shape, and then even smaller spiky shapes, and then probably more, I assume, but I can't see that far. Yeah, so it's cool. But let's, yeah, I mean, what I could do, and so I don't have to update each of these is I could have like a value node plugged into the rotation, so 25, let's say, and I just modified from here. Oh, interesting. Oh man, that's so interesting. Because it just keeps rotating. It's like a simple pattern that you repeat, and that's kind of the idea of a fractal, I guess. But yeah, so if I put this into the output, it's going to show up on all of the nodes, but maybe that's easier than, because then I can just take this value and plug it into here. Oh, and then, oh, but it happens after. Well, I'll just copy this node over here, no problem. And it's still going to give me the same. That's just, it's an error because it's something that's not even related to the other vector stuff, so yeah, that's fine. And then we need to invert this, so multiply it by -1. Yeah, so this will, if I adjust this value, I'll always get it in that. And when it's rotating around, so I think that's based on whatever center this is. So let's try negative 0.5. It's rotating around like right here. This is the high point of it, so let's try shifting it down. See if we can do that. Wild. Wow. Okay. Oh, and I'm throwing off the rotation, so, but like you can just random texture generator, just like interesting repeated patterns. It's incredible. Wow. But why is it rotating like this? This should just be the z-axis. No, yeah, that's not why. That's not happening the way we expect. Oh yeah, sorry, this should be negative 1. I don't know why I'm modifying that. I could just stare at this all night. It's so just like, math is beautiful, guys. Okay, but yeah, let's just make a driver frame. Oh, caps again. Caps lock. Hashtag frame. Too fast. So divided by a big number. Maybe not that slow. Let's try 60. What was this originally? Negative 0.5 and 0. Oh man. This is like a James Bond intro or something. I just want to keep it like that. Let's try negative 0.5. Okay, so that's close to what it was before. I think, what was it like at 0? Do you remember what the value was if you just rewind it, go back in time a little bit? What was the this add value? Just like oh. -1. I think this was 0 and this is 0.5. If we open up the timeline, this doesn't... Wow. Okay, there. We're back. But we went too far back. Can I redo that anymore? Oh, Shift Control Z. That's what I meant. I guess I'll have to do this again. So use the volume node. Yeah. Well, you know, I guess I can call this done. That was didn't take too long either. You'll probably be rendering this out with an animation, and yeah, awesome. So, oh yeah, same mistake, haven't learned. So plug that in there. -1. So let's make that frame divided by 60. Or 120. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. If you found that cool, try playing around with this. It's surprising how much you can do just by repeating things with groups. Yeah, what really made this work was basing this texture and repeating it on the new vector that we get after this rotation. Yeah, so with the setup, it just kind of, yeah, it's recursive. It keeps building on itself, so yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll make more videos on this. Probably not soon because I've been super busy, but wow, yeah, this is cool. So take care.